Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here, again with another installment of my complete analysis of all 389 Bach chorales. Today I have a quick video. I do not have a ton of time to record it, so I'm just going to hop right into Wo soll ich fliehen hin, which translates to where should I fly from here, or where should I flee to? I've seen a couple of different translations. Basically it's about fleeing. We're in the key of F minor. Just going to go right into it. 3 flats. I know it suggests E flat major, C minor territory, but notice how D flats get added in artificially. And I really do think this is sort of an artifact of sort of like Renaissance mode transposition, where the flat would get added in after the key signature. Something that I saw a lot in my Renaissance music class. We start with a 1 chord in root position with passing tones in the lower voices, just an F minor triad. That F minor triad gets inverted on beat 1 of the first complete measure, and then goes to a 7/6 chord. This D right here, this is an E diminished triad over G. It makes more sense for 1 to go to 6 and then for it to go back to 1 on the next beat, which is what it does. But the reason why I don't think this is a 2 chord, which is what this D would make it, is because the chord has more of a dominant sound. But then again, 2 and 7 are very common, or they're very close to one another in relationship because they share 2 common tones, because they're a third apart. And then we have a B flat minor chord over D, or a 4/6 chord, right here, and we cadence on 5. We have a half. This makes this a half cadence, but more specifically, it makes it a Phrygian half cadence because 4/6, or a 4 chord in first inversion, is flat 6 going down to 5. It gives it that Phrygian modal sound, like a Phrygian dominant. We then go to an A flat major chord in root position, which would be a 3 chord in the key of F minor. And then the same thing sort of happens where we get the chord inverted here. So these phrases are related to one another in terms of their structure. We have 3, 3, 6 passing tones in the alto and the bass. We then get 5, 6 here. This is a C major triad over E, passing 7th in the soprano, and then we go to 1 in root position, just an F minor triad. This G is a 9/8/9 over the F. It's part of a 9/8 suspension, and then we get a 4 chord here. This E, kind of similar to the way that this 7 chord appeared right here. This E is an accented non-chord tone, but this time the 4 chord is in root position, unlike the 4 chord here, which was in first inversion. Then we have another half cadence. So this one's not a Phrygian half cadence, but it is 4 to 5. Okay, so now we are preparing for a modulation to the key of A flat major. This is an imperfect authentic cadence on A flat, in the key of A flat major. So this F minor chord right here that we get on beat 1 of this measure, we're going to go ahead and say that that is our common chord, and it is now 6. Thinking in terms of the key of A flat major, F minor and A flat major are related. They're relative major and minor to one another. And then we get a 5/6 chord, G, C, E flat, and B flat. This C is an accented non-chord tone. This G flat, B flat, G natural, B flat, E flat, and B flat. This would be just a regular old 5/6. Otherwise, the C would make it kind of complicated to analyze. It would make it a 3/4/3 chord, which is probably not very common. But then again, if you're analyzing on the downbeats and not taking into account accented non-chord tones, then go for it. A flat, E, and C. So 1 chord in root position, passing 7th in the bass. F, A flat, F, and C. Another 6 chord, passing 7th in the bass. D flat, A flat, F, D flat. It's a 4 chord root position. E flat, G, E flat, B flat. That is a 5 chord root position. And then we get a root position 1 chord with the 3rd in the soprano. So this is not a perfect authentic cadence. It is an imperfect authentic cadence. We then repeat the same chord, and then we move down to the second system. Again, I apologize for going more quickly, or quicker through this analysis. I just don't have a lot of time to record today. I had to carve out a little bit of time to keep my schedule going. Apologies for the loud vehicles in the background as always. Then we have a D flat major chord here, D flat, A flat, F, and A flat. That's a root position D flat major chord with a passing seventh in the bass. B flat, D flat, F, and B flat. That is a B flat minor chord. So that would be a 2 chord in root position. Kind of an interesting progression, as 4 and 2 are kind of the same chord. And when I say kind of the same chord, I mean they're substitutions for one another due to the fact that they are a third apart. Passing tone in the... Actually, no, we're going to call it a 2 chord, but for the same reason why this 2 chord could have been called 7, this could also be called 7 as a G, B flat, D flat, and B flat could make this a 7, 6, 4. Yeah, no, it wouldn't likely be a... Wait, no, this would be a 7-6 chord. We'll call it 7-6 as well, if we mark this as the non-chord tone. We'll call it 2 as well. It didn't quite strike me the same, but 4 going to 7 makes more sense. But it goes to F, C, A flat, and C, so we get a deceptive progression here. But yeah, in my analysis I had this written as 2. This very easily could be 7-6 for the same reason why this was 7-6 earlier. Go ahead and just call that 2 for consistency's sake. Right there. It wouldn't even be diminished, it would just be a regular 2. Yes, so passing tone in the bass, and then we have D flat, F, A flat, D flat, another 4 chord in root position. And then we get E flat, A, and A flat, and C. That is a flat major triad in first inversion. And then we get E flat, D flat, G, and B flat. That'll make this a 5-7. Passing tones there. This bracket signifies that they're related to one another. And then we cadence on 1. And then we have a perfect authentic cadence. Now the next part of the chorale is probably the most interesting because this chorale, this cadence right here, I couldn't decide what it was. It sounded originally to me like an imperfect authentic cadence in the key of E flat major, but I don't know. I listened to it again and again and again and again, and I finally started hearing it as a half cadence in the key of A flat major, which for analysis' sake makes it a lot easier. So we're gonna stay consistent and call it a half cadence in the key of A flat major. So bass leaps up, the voices get rotated, no need to reanalyze. We get G, E flat, B flat, and E flat. This is an E flat major triad over G, so a 5-6 chord. A flat, E flat, A flat, C. It's a 1 chord, so even if we had modulated to E flat, we're probably not there yet. Because we also see a D flat here, which would be kind of interesting if we had already modulated to E flat. So we have F, A flat, and C. There's our 6 chord again. And then we have a passing 7th in the bass, just like how we had a passing 7th here. D flat, E flat, A flat, C. I think this D flat is an accented non-chord tone, and this is instead a 1-6 chord in A flat triad over C. Then we have our first chromatically contextual D, D, F, A flat, and B flat. That would be a B flat 7 chord over D, which would be 5-6-5 of 5. And this turns around to be 5-3 over here because it's the same chord except for we have no 7th. We have B flat, D natural. Remember, there's no D flat in the key signature, so this is a D natural. Accented non-chord tone, just counterpoint there. F and B flat, so it's just a B flat major triad. And then we cadence on 5. It gets a lot of emphasis. It gets 3 beats of emphasis, which makes it sound like a modulation, but I don't think it is. There's an argument to be made, the fact that it is a modulation, though, so we shall see if anyone has anything interesting to add to the comments. So we're looking for a modulation back to F minor in anticipation for the last cadence, which is a perfect authentic cadence on F major, but it does so via Picardy third, not through a modulation. So here the chord just inverts this E flat major triad, E flat, G, and B flat, but we get D flat here, which signifies that we never really left the key, I believe. But they're both passing tones in the lower voices. And then we get E natural. So E natural in the key of A flat would signify that this C major triad here would be 5, 6 of 6, because C is the dominant of F minor. And if we're modulating to F minor, we can just call this 5, 6. And I think this is where the modulation happens, like right on the accidental, as opposed to before. It doesn't really make sense for it to happen there, even with the D flat in there and everything. C, C, E, and C, passing 7th. We'll just call that a 5, 3, because the chord stays the same, the figure bass changes. F, C, F, and A flat. That's a root position F minor triad with a passing 7th on the bass. D flat, B flat, F, and B flat. That is a 4-6 chord, a B flat minor over D flat. Then we have some passing tones in the soprano, tenor, and bass. We then have B flat, D flat, F, and G. That G would keep this B flat chord. The G turns this B flat chord into a G diminished, or it's half diminished, and it's in first inversion, so a 2 half diminished 6-5 chord. And then we have E, C, E, or C, C, E, and G. What clef is this E? I don't know why I was calling it E. C, C, E, and G with a passing 7th in the tenor. That's just a 5 chord. And then we cadence on 1 major, F, A natural, C, and F. So that was Wo soll ich fliehen hin? Where should I fly from here? Overall, pretty straightforward chorale. Not super interesting. I think this has a pretty straightforward form. We see a lot of rests. We see parallelism between the sections. There's no repeat in this one, which is kind of interesting. I can't recall if we've looked at a chorale so far that has included a repeat, or that hasn't included a repeat yet. So I think this is the first one. But correct me if I'm wrong. That being said, 2 versus 7 in either of these sections, I think those are up for debate. And whether or not we've modulated to E flat in this situation is, I think, for debate as well. But other than that, I think that pretty much covers everything this chorale has to offer. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's analysis. I will have more time tomorrow to analyze, so stay tuned for tomorrow's chorale, and take care.